A cry in the forest. Josh walked through the thick alien forest, his boots pressing softly into the mossy ground. It was quiet. Too quiet. The only sound was the wind brushing through glowing blue leaves. He had come here to find old tech, maybe, some lost parts he could sell, but now, something felt wrong. He heard it again. A sound. A cry. At first he thought it was a bird, but no bird cried like that. It was high-pitched, scared, and the words were clear, though broken. Help. Human. Please, and help my mom. Josh froze. Did I imagine that? He whispered. Then it came again, louder this time. Human. Help. My mama's trapped. He didn't wait. He ran toward the voice, heart pounding in his chest. The forest got darker as he moved, the trees pressing in close, vines brushing against his arms. He pushed through thick brush, branches scratching his skin. Suddenly he saw something small and trembling behind a tree. A child, not human. The little girl had soft purple skin, large green eyes full of tears, and tiny hands gripping a tree branch tightly. She was no taller than Josh's chest and wore thin, torn clothes. Her feet were muddy. She looked hungry, cold, and terrified. Hey, Josh said gently, raising his hands. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. The alien child looked up at him with wide eyes. You're human? She asked, voice shaking. Yes. What's wrong? Where's your mother? She pointed toward the trees. There. She fell into a bad trap. I tried to pull her, but it hurt her. She told me to run, but I couldn't. I waited. I screamed. I thought no one would come. Josh's stomach tightened. What kind of trap? I don't know. Ropes. Metal teeth. Josh followed her pointing hand and moved carefully through the undergrowth. The air smelled like rust and blood. As he reached the clearing, he gasped. An alien woman, taller and older than the girl, lay tangled in a vicious snare made of wire and sharp hooks. Her leg was caught in a metal jaw that had clamped shut around her ankle. Thick green blood pooled on the ground beneath her. Her skin was pale from blood loss. Her breathing was weak. She hadn't passed out yet, but she was close. Josh dropped to his knees. Oh no. The child rushed to her mother's side. Mama, he came. A human came. The woman's eyes fluttered open, barely focusing. She tried to speak, but only a soft moan escaped her lips. Josh examined the trap. It wasn't like any human-made hunting tool he'd seen. It was advanced, ugly, designed not just to trap, but to hurt. This wasn't set for animals, he muttered. It was set for intelligent beings. The snare had glowing lines, probably some kind of sensor tech. He knew if he just yanked it open, it might tighten or send a signal. He looked at the girl. What's your name? Sorry, she replied. Sorry, I'm Josh. I need you to stay back while I help your mother, okay? Sorry nodded and backed, away, her hands shaking. Josh reached into his bag and pulled out a small toolkit. He tried to unlock the mechanism gently, but the second he touched one of the wires, a beep sounded. No, he said quickly. Sorry gasped. What is that sound? Josh stared into the forest. The sound echoed off the trees. It wasn't just a beep. It was an alert. They know someone touched the trap, he said. Someone's coming. Who? Sorry asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Josh looked down at the trap, then at the wounded mother. He had to make a choice now. He couldn't run. Not with the girl. Not with the mother in this condition. And if he left them, the hunters, whoever they were, would return. He looked into the little alien girl's eyes. She was scared, but she hadn't left her mother's side. Even in fear, she stayed. I won't leave you, Josh said firmly. We're going to save her, I promise. He placed his hand gently on the alien woman's forehead. Hold on. Help is here. But just as he turned back to the trap, something rustled in the trees. Branches cracked. Footsteps. Heavy ones. And then a deep, growling voice from the shadows said, She's still alive. Excellent. Josh pulled out his knife. The forest had turned into a battlefield. The trap was meant for beasts. Josh didn't move. The deep voice from the trees made every hair on his body stand up. He gripped his knife tighter, eyes scanning the dark forest ahead. More rustling. Another voice, cold and cruel, echoed through the shadows. We set this snare for predators, and now we've caught something interesting. Sari whimpered and crawled beside her mother, trying to shield her with her tiny body. Josh stepped between them, his body tense, eyes locked on the trees. Then they appeared. 3 tall figures emerged from the darkness. They weren't human. Their skin was rough and armored, with patches of bone-like plating across their chests and shoulders. Each one carried a weapon, long, sharp, and glowing with blue energy, alien hunters. The lead one had glowing red eyes and a cruel smile. He looked at Josh and tilted his head. "You don't belong here, human." Josh didn't flinch. "Neither does that trap. What is this, a game to you?" The alien chuckled. "Everything is a game. Pain, fear, survival. You stepped into our territory. Now you're part of it." Josh slowly raised his hands to show he wasn't holding a gun, just a knife. "Let me take the girl and her mother. They're no threat to you," the second hunter hissed. "They are prey. Weak ones, easy to catch. We use them for training." Josh's jaw clenched. "She's not prey. She's a mother." He turned slightly, glancing at the snare. He had to find a way to release it before these monsters decided to attack. The third hunter stepped forward and sniffed the air. "I smell blood, fear, and something else. You. Human sweat. The kind that comes before a fight." Josh didn't wait. He spun and grabbed the mother's ankle, careful not to touch the sensor wire, and wedged his knife into the trap's jaw. It sparked, but he pushed harder, using all his strength. The metal groaned. "What are you doing?" the lead hunter roared. Josh grunted. "I'm breaking your toy." The trap popped open with a sharp clang. The alien mother gasped in pain as Josh pulled her leg free. Blood poured from the wound, but she was free. The hunters charged. Josh tossed. A smoke bomb from his belt, left over from his military days. Thick gray clouds filled the air. The forest turned to fog. "Run!" Josh shouted, grabbing Sari's hand and lifting her mother onto his back. The girl ran beside him, and Josh pushed through the trees blindly. Branches scraped his face. Thorns cut his arms. But he didn't stop. Behind him, the hunters growled and shouted. "This way!" Josh yelled to Sari. "There's a cave ahead. I saw it earlier." The 3 of them reached a narrow gap between 2 cliffs. Josh ducked inside and set the alien mother down gently. Her breathing was shallow. She was burning with fever. "She's losing too much blood," he muttered. "I need to stop it." Sari knelt beside her mother. "Will she die?" Josh opened his pack and pulled out a roll of old bandages and a small injection kit. "Not if I can help it." He worked fast, wrapping the wound and giving the mother an injection to stop the bleeding. It wasn't alien medicine, but it might buy them time. "I have to get her help," Josh said. "But the comms won't work this deep in the forest. I need to reach high ground." Sari looked up at him. "You're going to leave us?" Josh shook his head. "No, I'll come back, but I need you to stay quiet. Don't make a sound, no matter what you hear." The little girl nodded, eyes full of trust. Before leaving the cave, Josh turned and whispered, "Block the entrance with brush. Hide. And if anything happens, if they come back..." He paused, looked into her eyes. "Fight like your mom is watching." Then he was gone, running up the slope, deeper into the unknown. But as he vanished into the trees, Sari turned to her mother, whose fingers weakly reached out, and whispered, "He's going to save us." "I know it." Outside, the wind carried a low growl. The hunters were back on the trail, and Josh had just become the new target. Hunters in the mist rolled in like a living thing, cold, heavy, silent. Josh crouched behind a fallen log halfway, up the hillside. He could barely see the trees ahead, but he could hear them. The hunters, Their strange boots didn't crunch the ground like humans. They padded across the forest floor in eerie silence like predators made of shadow. He checked his old comm device. No signal. Of course, he muttered. Josh knew the alien mother didn't have long. Her blood loss was bad. He had given her medicine, wrapped her wound, but it wasn't enough. He needed help. He needed someone who knew how to treat her kind and fast. But first he had to survive. Suddenly a faint click echoed behind him. Josh ducked. A plasma shot sizzled over his head, burning a chunk of bark from the tree beside him. "They're already here," he growled. He grabbed the alien weapon he had stolen earlier, long and strange, with a smooth crystal core that glowed when touched. He had no idea how it worked, but maybe it could save his life. A voice echoed through the mist. "Human. Come out." It was the lead hunter again. Calm, confident, cruel. "We do not need the mother anymore," the voice continued. "But we'll take you instead. Strong. Prey makes for better sport." Josh stayed silent, crawling along the log's length. His eyes scanned the mist. He saw movement. A figure. He raised the alien weapon and squeezed the handle. A thin beam of blue light shot out, fast and quiet. Direct hit. One of the hunters fell, groaning. "One down," Josh shouted into the mist, hoping to confuse the others. But he had no time to celebrate. Another beam flew past his ear. The second hunter had flanked him. Josh rolled to the side, crashing down a slope, hitting rocks and roots until he landed hard at the base of a mossy cliff. Pain shot through his ribs. "Not broken, just bruised," he hissed, holding his side. He didn't stop. He knew if they caught him now, they wouldn't kill him fast. Back at the cave, Sari huddled beside her mother. The woman was breathing, but it was weak, shallow like a whisper. Her skin looked colder now, too pale. Sari kept holding her hand, whispering, "Stay, don't go. He said he'll come back." Suddenly, sound outside, rustling, branches snapping. Sari's heart jumped. She rushed to the cave mouth and peeked through the leaves. Her blood turned cold. A shadow moved through the trees. Tall, heavy. The third hunter. He was close. She looked back at her. Mom, she couldn't move her. Couldn't fight, so she did the only thing she could. She grabbed a stick and waited in silence. Josh limped through the trees, every breath sharp with pain. He had to lead them away. He reached a tall stone outcrop and began climbing. His fingers slipped, his sides screamed. But he forced himself up, inch by inch, until he stood above the trees. From here he could finally see the forest. But what he saw made his heart drop. One of the hunters was heading toward the cave. No. He raised the alien weapon and took aim, but it was too far. He needed to be closer, and faster. He slid down the rock, hitting the ground hard, and sprinted through the trees. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but he didn't stop. At the cave, the third hunter stepped closer. His weapon glowed in his hand, his face twisted in a hungry smile. He smelled fear. He raised his weapon. Crack! Sari struck him in the leg with the stick. It broke instantly. The hunter turned. "You tiny thing." He grabbed her by the arm and lifted her into the air. "Let go," she screamed. That's when the alien mother, barely conscious, lifted her hand and whispered something in her own tongue. A small light on the cave wall glowed, and a hidden shock trap triggered. The hunter screamed as an energy pulse hit him from the rock. He dropped Sari and fell backward, stunned. Sari crawled back to her mother and cried, "You saved me," but the woman had passed out again. Just then, Josh burst into the clearing. He saw the hunter on the ground and Sari holding her mom. "You're okay?" he gasped. Sari nodded with tears in her eyes. "She saved me. Even now." Josh looked at the trap on the wall. Old tech. Clever. He turned to the hunter, still twitching. "Not so tough now, huh?" Then he raised the alien weapon and ended it. For good. As night fell, Josh wrapped the mother in thermal blankets and helped Sari rest beside her. The cave was quiet now, safe. But Josh knew more hunters might come, and next time they'd bring more than just snares. He stared out into the forest. He would fight again if he had to. But now he wasn't just a stranger in the woods. He was their protector. Human rage awakens. Josh sat at the mouth of the cave, gripping the alien weapon tightly. He hadn't slept. The alien mother lay deep inside the cave, breathing slow and shallow. Sari curled up beside her, holding her hand even in sleep. Josh had used the last of his bandages, wrapped her tightly, and shared his only heat pack. But still, the woman was fading, and they were running out of time. Josh looked down at his shaking hands. Not from fear, from fury. He had seen many things. In his life, wars, pirates, crashes. But nothing had ever made his blood boil like this. They trapped a mother. They made her daughter watch. They called it a game. Josh clenched his jaw. No more running. As dawn broke, a low hum rose in the forest. A strange sound, like a deep drum beat from beneath the earth. The leaves shimmered. The trees stood still. Sari opened her eyes. They're coming again. I feel it. Josh nodded. I feel it too. He stood and picked up the stolen alien rifle. He checked its power core, glowing, but weak. Only a few shots left. It would have to be enough. Josh moved out into the woods, slowly and silently. He left a trail of broken sticks behind him, not for the enemy, for Sari. In case he didn't return, the hunters were gathering. At least 5, now. Bigger ones, smarter armor. Their skin had marks, scars from battles. They laughed as they walked through the trees, dragging chains and weapons. He killed 3 of ours. One growled. Good. Let's give him a slow end. Another replied. The leader, taller than the rest and wearing armor made of bones, raised his hand. We take the girl. We take the mother. The human, we break him. Josh heard everything from behind a rock. He stepped out. Hey. The hunters turned. There he stood, dirty, bruised, and alone, but fearless. You wanted a fight, he said. Here I am. One hunter charged with a howl. Josh aimed the rifle and fired. A perfect shot. The hunter dropped. The others roared. Josh ducked behind a tree as plasma beams scorched the bark. He rolled, dodged, fired again, missed. The weapon flickered. It was almost drained. He gritted his teeth and ran. Not away, but through them. He kicked one in the knee, ducked a blade, and shoved the rifle's butt into another's jaw. One hunter tackled him from behind, but Josh stabbed him with a hidden knife. 3 quick jabs. Blood splattered the ground, but there were too many. They grabbed him, threw him to the ground. The bone-armored leader stood over him. Weak, he spat. Josh's eyes burned. You call a man weak, who fights for people who aren't even his kind? The hunter raised his arm to strike, but a small rock hit his head. He turned. Sari stood at the edge of the trees. Her hands trembled. Her eyes blazed. Leave him alone, she screamed. You're monsters. The leader grinned. You should have stayed hidden, little one. He raised his weapon. Then, boom! A blast hit the ground beside him. Dirt and light exploded in every direction. Josh looked up. The alien mother stood at the tree line, leaning on a branch, barely able to stand, but holding one of the hunter's stolen plasma grenades. Her voice, weak but steady, rang through the air. Touch, my daughter, and I'll end you. The hunters were stunned. Josh used that second to grab his knife and leap onto the nearest one, slashing his throat. Another hunter screamed and fired, but hit his own teammate. The fight turned wild. Josh tackled the leader, both of them rolling, on the ground. Punches, kicks, blood, dirt, roars. Why? Josh shouted as they fought. Why hurt families? What kind of animal does this? The leader laughed even as Josh's fists slammed into his face. Because it's fun. That was the last thing he said. Josh grabbed the fallen plasma blade and drove it through the hunter's chest. Silence. Then, the forest seemed to breathe again. The rest of the hunters, wounded, leaderless, ran. Josh stood, panting, his face bruised and bleeding. Sari ran to him and hugged his leg. "You came back," she whispered. Josh dropped the weapon and knelt. "I promised I would." Behind her, the mother collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Josh rushed to help. "You shouldn't have stood." The alien woman gave a soft, tired smile. "Mothers always stand. For their children." He carried her gently back to the cave. This time there were no shadows following, only light. The alien mother speaks. The fire in the cave crackled softly. Josh sat beside it, slowly sharpening a broken blade. His arms were sore, his shirt torn, and blood crusted on his cheek. But his eyes stayed focused on the alien mother resting across from him. She was alive. Barely. Wrapped in blankets, her leg tightly bandaged, her head resting on a soft roll of fabric. Sari held her hand and hadn't moved from her side since the fight ended. Josh had done all he could, but her breathing was still weak. He watched her chest rise and fall. Too slow. Too shallow. Then, finally, she opened her eyes. They were soft, and silver, and full of pain. But she was awake. Josh leaned forward. "Hey, you're safe now. You're okay." The mother blinked, her gaze drifting to Sari. Her lips moved, but the words were too soft to hear. Sari leaned close. "Mama?" Then came the first real sentence, broken but full of strength. "You saved my child." Josh felt a knot tighten in his throat. He smiled gently. "She's the one who saved me. Brave little warrior." The mother reached up, brushing Sari's hair. "You gave her hope. You stayed. You fought for us." Josh looked down, embarrassed. Anyone would have done the same. The mother's eyes sharpened. "No, others walked by, heard her cry, smelled our blood, but they ran." Josh froze. "You saw us, and came closer," she whispered. Silence settled between them. Then she added, "I am Lyra." Josh nodded. "Josh." Lyra's gaze fell on the weapon in his lap. "You used their tools and against them?" Josh grinned. "Had to get creative. One of them tried to call me prey." Lyra closed her eyes. "To them, everything weaker is prey. Sick minds. Twisted rituals. They sell recordings of the hunts to off-worlders who watch for pleasure." Josh's hands clenched into fists. This wasn't just sport. It was a business. A nightmare sold as entertainment. Sari looked between them. "Are they all gone now?" Josh looked out the cave. "For now, but more could come. We need to get you both out of this forest." Lyra coughed. "Even if we reach the edge and we have no family left, no clan, no tribe, only each other." Josh was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Then I'll be your tribe. Until we find safety." Lyra blinked. "You would stay with aliens?" Josh looked at Sari, then back at Lyra. "You're not aliens to me anymore." Later that day, Josh helped Lyra sit upright. She winced but nodded at him. Her wound was healing, but slowly. She had lost so much blood. Sari brought her warm broth from a small pot Josh had made from bark and metal scraps. She held it gently to her mother's lips. Lyra drank, then said softly, "There's something you need to know." Josh looked up. "The trap. The one I was caught in. It was not meant for me," she said. Josh's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "It was meant for someone. More powerful. Someone the hunters feared." Lyra closed her eyes as if remembering something painful. "We were running. We saw their ship crash. They came down too far from their base. We hid. But we saw what followed." Josh leaned closer. "What followed?" Lyra opened her eyes again. A creature. Not of this world, not of mine. Even the hunters were afraid. It ripped through their ranks and disappeared into the trees. Josh stared in disbelief. You're saying something is still out there? She nodded. They set traps everywhere, not for prey, but to catch that thing. And I stepped into one by accident. Josh stood slowly. So this forest isn't just dangerous because of them. There's something worse, Lyra whispered. Yes. But maybe. That creature is not our enemy, Josh frowned. Why? Because, she said, it only attacked those who hunt the weak. That night Josh sat outside the cave again, watching the stars blink through the trees. He didn't know what the creature was, or what it wanted, but he knew this. If it was hunting the hunters, maybe, just maybe, they weren't alone in this fight. And for the first time, he didn't feel like a stranger on this planet. He felt like a guardian. A human's promise. Josh tightened the strap on his backpack and glanced one last time at the cave. Lyra was sleeping inside, her breathing easier. Now. Sari sat beside her, softly humming a song in her alien language. A lullaby, maybe. Something gentle. Something hopeful. Josh stepped out into the forest. He had made a promise. He couldn't let them die out here. The forest was strangely quiet. Too quiet. Josh moved fast but carefully. His boots pressed lightly into the mossy ground. The trees above groaned in the breeze, but no birds sang. No animals stirred. It was like the whole forest was holding its breath. He knew what he was looking for, a high point. If he could reach the cliff near the old comm tower ruins, he could try to send out a distress signal. Maybe someone would hear him. Maybe help would come. Maybe. Josh reached a steep hill and climbed quickly, using roots for balance. At the top, he found what he hoped for. A half-broken antenna sticking out from a rusted station covered in vines and thorns. It had been dead for years. But Josh was a mechanic before he was a fighter. He set his bag down and began working, wiping. Sweat from his forehead, he spoke to himself softly. Come on, just give me one spark. He connected wires, twisted pieces together, and finally hit the power button. The antenna made a click, then a buzz, then silence. Josh's heart dropped. But just as he turned away, a soft red light blinked on. It was alive. Back at the cave, Sari heard something in the woods. She froze. Not a branch. Not the wind. Footsteps. She quickly grabbed a sharp stick and ran to block the entrance. Her mother, still too weak to stand, tried to raise her head. Stay hidden, Lyra whispered. Sari peeked through the brush. Her eyes went wide. It wasn't a hunter, it was something worse. It walked on two legs, but its skin was black like oil, and pulsing with faint red light. It had no eyes, just slits for a mouth. It sniffed the air, turning its head slowly. It wasn't a machine, it wasn't a beast, it was something in between. Sari held her breath. The creature stopped, then tilted its head toward the cave. It knew. She whispered. Mama. Far above, Josh sent a short pulse through the repaired antenna. Distress signal from human survivor. 2 aliens injured. Hostiles in area. Request immediate help. Coordinates attached. He repeated it 3 times. Then the antenna died for good. Josh didn't. Wait, he turned to head back. And froze. A voice. Inside his head. You protect the weak. Josh spun around. Who's there? Silence. Then the voice again, soft and strange. Not from a mouth. Human. Protector. You are not prey. Josh looked into the trees and saw nothing. Only the mist moving again. But this time it moved with purpose. Sari's hands trembled as the creature stepped closer to the cave. It didn't rush, it didn't growl. It simply walked as if nothing could stop it. Her mother opened one eye and whispered, Run. I won't leave you, Sari said. The creature stopped only feet away from the cave mouth. It raised one long, clawed finger and sliced a branch clean in half. Sari gripped her stick tighter. Suddenly, Josh burst through the trees. He grabbed a rock and threw it with all his strength. It hit the creature's back, but didn't even leave a mark. The creature turned slowly. Its face showed no emotion, no anger, but it saw him. Josh raised his weapon. "If you want them, you go through me." The creature didn't move. It tilted its head. Then, it spoke, not aloud, inside their minds. "You protect. You do not harm. You are different." Josh stepped closer. "What are you?" The creature's body flickered with red light. "I was made, then broken, then forgotten. I hunt the hunters. I destroy those who destroy the innocent." Josh's eyes widened. "You're the one Lyra saw. The one they feared." "Yes." The creature looked at the cave. "They are safe. Because of you." Josh stood tall. "They're family now." A pause. Then the creature said, "I will watch. I will protect from the shadows until your kind returns." With that, it turned and melted back into the forest, silent, invisible, gone. Josh rushed to the cave and hugged Sari tight. "You okay?" She nodded quickly. "You came back." Josh looked at Lyra, who gave a weak smile. "You kept your promise, human." Josh knelt beside her and took her hand. "No, I'm just getting started. A new family." The sun rose gently over the forest, casting golden light through the trees. For the first time in days, the woods felt calm. No more screams, no more snares, just wind and birdsong, and the slow, steady breath of survivors. Josh sat by the small fire outside the cave. His shirt was torn, his hands were bandaged, and his face showed deep exhaustion. But he was calm now. Inside the cave, Lyra slept peacefully, her body finally resting without pain. Sari curled beside her, eyes closed, one small hand holding her, mother's. Josh leaned back against a tree. They had made it through. But he didn't know what would come next. He looked up at the sky. "Please," he whispered. "Let someone hear that signal." Hours passed. Josh kept watch. He built a stronger barrier at the cave entrance just in case. He hunted small creatures for food, gathered fruit, and cleaned the area around Lyra and Sari. Every little thing he did as if they were his. Because now, they were. Later, Lyra opened her eyes and whispered his name. Josh knelt beside her. "I'm here." She smiled. "You didn't run." He smiled back. "I don't run from family." Her silver eyes softened. "We are not the same species, not the same blood." Josh shook his head. "But I carried you, I fed you, I bled for you." He looked toward Sari, who was playing quietly with some smooth rocks nearby. "I protected your child as if she were my own." He met Lyra's gaze again. "I don't care about blood." Lyra was silent for a moment. Then she reached up and gently touched his chest with her fingers. "In my people's ways, we only touch the heart of those we trust fully. You have earned that." Josh blinked. "Does that mean—" "It means," Lyra whispered, "you are one of us now." Just then, a sound cut through the trees, a low humming. Strange, but familiar. Josh stood, alert. "That's—" He ran out of the cave, eyes scanning the sky. Overhead, a rescue ship was descending. It was old, probably colonial class, but armed, human-made. They had heard the signal. Josh waved both arms, yelling, "Down here!" The ship hovered low, sending dust and leaves flying. A hatch opened and two figures stepped out, both in worn-out armor carrying med packs. One of them shouted, "You the one who sent the call?" Josh nodded. "Yes, two injured, one child, non-human but friendly." They moved fast, following him back to the cave. Inside, the medics carefully examined Lyra. One scanned her wounds and shook his head in disbelief. "She's lucky to be alive," he said. "Who treated her?" Josh raised a hand. The medic stared. "With what training?" Josh shrugged. experience, and hope. The other medic scanned Sari and gave her a small piece of candy. Her eyes lit up like stars. "Sweet," she whispered, smiling shyly. Josh smiled too. "First time, huh?" As they carried Lyra out, she reached for Josh's hand. "Are you coming?" she asked softly. Josh paused. The human captain stepped forward. "We can drop you off at the next colony if you want. Or, if you're staying with them, we can register your group as a protected unit." Josh looked back at the forest, at the cave, then at Sari and Lyra. He didn't need time to decide. "I'm staying." The captain nodded with a grin. Didn't think otherwise. Hours later, the ship rose from the forest, taking them toward a new beginning. Sari leaned against Josh, curled in a blanket, asleep in his lap. Lyra rested quietly nearby, her hand still holding his. The stars outside the ship slowly drifted by. Josh watched them, feeling something new settle inside him. Peace. He had come to this world alone. Broken. But now, he had something worth fighting for. Something worth staying for. Not just survival. Not just duty. Family.